So, like, how many jobs did you apply to get a call for like Boston Metal or other companies?
That was a pretty challenging situation for me.
And how much time did it take from your initial call to your final
I
one?
always related to that problem.
What types of interview questions were you asked when you interviewed?
So those types of communication will definitely, not every time you get in the same situation, but definitely it will increase your knowledge. So
What's your favorite part of working in supply chain?
the one question which I remember, and I was asked in almost every interview,
Is that like how you prepared your
the
resume?
most underrated skill I would say.
Or more on a day-to-day basis that you find new challenges every day that can't be solved by AI to solve them.
Yeah, can't be fully replaced by the. I'm in a good industry right now, so
Yeah,
yeah.
namaste and welcome to Deep Diving with Samyak Jain, the podcast where we uncover inspiring journeys, explore innovative ideas, and dive deep into the world of supply chain and beyond. Today, we have an amazing guest joining us, Sushant Kotawade, a supply chain professional currently excelling as a supply chain specialist at Boston Metal. Sushant brings a wealth of experience from his roles at companies like Godrej Interio, Nasher. In this episode, we will explore his career journey, his strategies for achieving supply chain excellence, and his advice for budding professionals navigating this exciting field. So grab your chai, settle in, and let's dive into another enriching conversation on Deep Diving with Samyak Jain. So first of all, thank you, Shushan, for joining us today.
Yeah, totally. It's my pleasure joining you.
So while I was going through your LinkedIn, and I got to know that you have done your bachelor's in mechanical engineering, and from there
Mhm.
you joined Northeastern, and now right now you're working at Boston Metal. So can you please share your journey and how was it?
Yeah, so after my high school back in India, I enrolled for the 3 years course of diploma in mechanical engineering. And after completing that, I joined Godrej Interio as a strategic sourcing and procurement engineer. Over there, I managed the portfolio for the procurement processes, onboarding the suppliers, and inventory management. This role brought me to an opportunity where I can understand about the complexity and the strategic importance of supply chain management in the business. And this sparked my interest. After completing an year with Godrej Interio, I pursued my undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering itself. But at the side by side, I was also having an interest in supply chain management. After completing my undergraduate degree, I joined Nasher as a procurement engineer, and then I decided to pursue my master's in industrial engineering. So I chose industrial engineering to have the balance and to know more about the link of the technical and management field both at the same time. After that, I got an opportunity to work as a supply chain co-op with Boston Metal, and over here I was able to use my classroom skills and knowledge into the real world problems like the knowledge and the skills which I gained through the courses like supply chain engineering and the business school courses offered at Northeastern University, like the sourcing and procurement, global supply chain management, and supply chain analytics. And I was also able to introduce some lean techniques to the processes as Boston Med is coming from a startup environment. There are a lot of processes which need to be established over there. So I got an opportunity to get a hands-on experience with them on the projects. And this experience shaped my career trajectory towards becoming a supply chain specialist now at Boston Metal.
Thanks for sharing. Like, yeah, definitely. Like, did your job that you did in India it helped you getting this call?
Yeah, definitely. The job which I did in India was in the supply chain industry itself. So where I had an experience of onboarding the SAP system, like we were transforming or transitioning from using the BAN as an ERP system to the Infor at Godrej. And there I was representing my team as a supply chain engineer over there. Like what are the needs, what are the fields which we need as in the ERP system. So yeah, and definitely the vendor negotiations, the supplier negotiations, the cost saving projects which I have taken under, and those were the key points which I highlighted in my resume too, and that helped me a lot in gaining this role as a supply chain co-op.
Okay. As you said, like you are also studying right now in Northeastern, right? And you
Mhm.
are also doing kind of a full time with Boston Metal. So how you were able to do it?
Okay, so after completing my co-op and having a word with my manager, he was ready to offer me a full-time position in the same team. And he didn't want it. He wanted to like extend my co-op for till December, till I graduate, but that wasn't possible due to the F1 visa
Correct.
rules. So we had an option of using using the pre-OPT period. So the F1 OPT period of 12 months, we can use that as in pre-OPT period. So for the last 4 months of period, like the last semester, I am using the pre-OPT period where I am eligible of work 20 hours per week for Boston Metal. And so basically I am using the period of some partial period of from the 12 months of OPT extension. So that allows me to continue working with Boston Metal without violating any rules. And then again, I can join Boston Metal full time using the OPT, post graduation OPT
Yeah.
from January. And this allows me to stay in touch with the organization, stay in touch with the projects, and I can take over easily when I join full time. So that's one of the leveraging point we have as an F1 student, visa student.
So, what you all needed to do to get the pre-OPT, like also what documentation side of it, like how to go through it, and also how did you convince your manager, or it was just manager reaching out to you?
Yeah, so I'll start by like the part of how I convinced managers. So it was a 8 months period of a co-op time. So after completing half of the period, I getting more knowledge, I understanding understanding the organization, the working culture, and whether I fit into this work culture, this team. And after understanding those points, I went to manager and like I was made it clear that I am open to work with this team and I would love to be a part of a team. So he was like, okay, so we are in a growing culture right now as a Boston Medal. So we definitely have some openings. We can have the openings for you if you fit in well. And depending on the budgets and those things, definitely. By the time we came to an end of my co-op, we had those discussions with the senior manager, the VPs of the supply chain. So they were impressed with my work and the skills which I onboarded, which I brought to the table. So they definitely offered me the full-time position and then manager, as he was known to this pre-OPT thing and the part-time period. He pitched that for me to the VP and they were fine with that. So the manager was convinced with having those types of transitioning roles. And then talking about the documentation, it's the same as the post OPT. You have to request for the I-20 to the OGS at Northeastern University, and then you can use that I-20 to file for your pre-OPT EAD card. And the same process, like you have the regular processing, you have the premium processing. It's just that you have to mention about the pre-OPT completion EAD card over there. The one more point which I would like to mention about the pre-OPT is as I'm using pre-OPT and working part-time, which is 20 hours per week, if I'm working for 4 months, it will be considered and it will be deducted. The 2 months will be deducted from my 12 months period of post OPT, the F1
Okay.
OPT, as I'm working part-time. So let me make it clear that it's just 20 hours per week, not the 40 hours, which is allowed on the post OPT. So that's why it's just 2 months of period deducted when I work for 4 months.
So yeah, that's interesting to know because like you only are allowed to work 20 hours. You can't work more than 20 hours and that's a regulation. So
Yeah,
and that's how they compensated you that you don't have to use like if you use 4 months, you only take 2 months
yeah,
as a post OPT, not 4 months. So yeah, thanks for
yeah.
sharing. I think it definitely helps
hmm
people make those decisions because sometimes what people think is that if you use 4 months, you will get one less chance of H1B or something
No,
like
no,
that.
no,
Okay.
no. I calculated though all of those
Okay.
things and then I made this decision.
Okay. Thanks for sharing. So now my
hmm
question is related to what you do right now. So you have worked in
Okay.
Godrej Interio, you have
hmm
worked in Nasher Miles, and now you're working at Boston Metal. Like, what's the biggest difference in managing supply chain processes like across different industries that you're seeing?
Okay, so all these three companies come from different background, have different background, like and each industry brings its unique challenges. So starting with Godrej Interio, coming, it's a manufacturing environment where the focus was on supplier quality and the cost management. We use the tools like DMAC and Kaizen to enhance these processes. Whereas while working with Nasher Miles, it was a e-commerce driven company. The demand forecasting and the just-in-time inventory management were more critical. We mostly worked on the enhancing the processes to reduce the delays and meeting the dynamic consumer demands. Whereas in Boston Metal, an innovative clean energy company, the focus is majorly on integrating the new product introduction processes with the supply chain strategies and balancing the operational efficiencies and sustainability. So these experiences taught me to adapt to the different challenges and the different working environments according to the industry needs, from managing cost effectiveness to implementing the lean tools and automation solutions.
So, like, what skills or tools did you learn to Excel for your current role?
Prioritizing the tools like according to the order. I have an hands-on experience and I'm pretty smooth with the advanced Excel because that's the tool which every industry, irrespective of the manufacturing, the IT, or like the startup companies, the everywhere the advanced Excel is used.
So
And the
what do
second.
you include in advanced Excel?
Okay, so I would like to share an experience over here. So while working with Boston Metal, coming from a startup environment and not having the processes aligned, and the supply chain team was getting developed. So there, the inventory management or the inventory planning wasn't streamlined yet. So it was just the demands were made and then the orders were placed, but there was no prior alert for us. So I worked with Excel with different formulas like the lookups and the formulas like when it goes, the reorder points and those things were set up in the Excel sheet itself, and there those were color changed. So it was a visual indication for the buyer, for all the stakeholders from the organization
So
who were
kind of like
responsible.
conditional
Yeah,
formatting, we can say that.
conditional formatting and setting up according to the formulas required by the organization. Yeah.
Okay, so you are saying like VLOOKUP and those pivot tables
Hmm.
basically are should
Yeah.
be your go-to and you should know them very good. But
Yeah.
do like example Power Pivot and VBA also is helpful.
Yeah, the VBA scripts are really helpful when it comes to like the larger data sets, handling the larger data sets and continuously updating the sheets. The VBA scripts plays an important role in that.
Okay, so yeah, you were telling about other
Yeah.
tools that you are using.
Yeah. So the other tools were like the Power BI dashboards. So basically, every time, every stakeholder won't be able to go to the numbers and make his calculations. So in that case, like decision making can be made through the visualizing graphs, bar graphs, the line charts, and some tags. That would be more important to make a better decision. So Power BI is one of the tools and the capabilities which the Power BI holds of like visualizing the data and playing a main role and major role in decision making that comes along with that. The other tools like the ERP systems, I know the ERP systems, every company has its own ERP system and own way of using that ERP system, but having the basic knowledge about like what are the capabilities of each ERP system, like the Oracle NetSuite has some different capabilities, while the SAP has its different
Correct.
capabilities. So understanding those differences and like having at least going through the flow, like how that works and how the transition comes from requisition to purchase order to the getting it into the inventory system. So those are the tools which I would recommend as a supply chain specialist and currently in this field.
So if you have to rate them according to your usage, so how would you rate them or rank them?
So, according to my daily usages, out of 100%, like if I want to divide, like out of 100%, 50% I would focus on Excel, advanced Excel, and the 30% would be the Power BI, and 20% would be the ERP system. I'm giving lower a percentage to the ERP system, as I said before, different organizations, different departments use the ERP system according to their convenience. So, having basic knowledge is totally fine for the entry-level job opportunities.
Okay, so like as you told, like how much you use those tools. So can you also please tell about like what's a typical day looks like in your current role?
Major difference as like during the co-op, it was more of a learning side, being a helping hand in the team. But now I own the responsibilities, and that's the major difference. Yeah. So currently, my day looks like handling the supply chains from end-to-end processes, like identifying the suppliers, onboarding them, like getting the sample batch approved by the engineers for considering the quality specifications requirement, and getting the quotations, negotiating if for the better prices, identifying the economic order quantities and discussing those with the vendors, streamlining the dispatch schedule and managing the inventory in the warehouse, collaborating with the warehouse team. These are the major things. And besides this, these are the day-to-day activities. And besides this, I'm more oriented towards the project handling. So basically, processes established, writing down the SOPs for those processes, using the lean techniques to enhance those processes, because everything in this world can be improved using the lean techniques. So using Kaizen,
Correct.
Kanban, 5S technique, Six Sigma techniques to enhance those processes, whether it be a virtual process or the material flow process. So those are the types of tasks which I am handling right now. But during my co-op, it was more of, as I said, it was more of a learning experience. I got an opportunity to collaborate with different teams like the PM team, the quality team, to establish the flow of the process. And having the inbound and outbound sessions, I was a major part from the supply chain team in the warehouse management project, the phase one of that project during my co-op. And also I also collaborated with the IT teams for the onboarding the Coupa as a procurement software, which helped the supply chain team a lot, and also the finance team to keep the records and establish the flow of those billings and invoices.
So, like your basically day-to-day tasks, you use like Lean Six Sigma, Kaizen, 5S, and you have
Hmm.
also done like forecasting and supplier selections, right?
Yeah.
So, like if someone is new to supply chain, how they can learn those skills before joining a company so they can have a good resumes.
Okay, so there are multiple courses. There are ample of courses available on LinkedIn Learning. Coursera is another a good platform. Udemy is also a good platform to learn those courses. But those courses will let you know about the technicalities. Also, you can use the YouTube to understand the real world problems where people come through podcasts. They tell us about the real world problems and how they use those technicalities or the mathematics behind that problem
Correct.
and how they use it in the real world challenge. So that can be understood through these platforms, and the communication skill, networking, talking to people, like that will enhance your communication skills, which a candidate will be able to use it during the customer negotiations, establishing the vendor relationships, and that plays a key role when it comes to supply chain.
Okay, yeah. So, like as you said, like there are courses on Coursera or like EDX, for example. So, do
Mhm.
you have any courses that you have done, or like there are multiple courses that you can search according to what you need?
Uh, so there are multiple courses according to
Okay,
our needs, according to our time convenience. Basically, some of the courses deep dive into each and every point, which are lengthy, which require a lot of time of dedication to from our side. But in that case, if you want to understand just one concept on, I can say about the LinkedIn Learning. Even if you go for like SAP as a software, learning about the SAP, I have done that. SAP Ariba. So it was just the introduction which I needed. As I said, I didn't wanted to deep dive and understand just about one organization, how it uses the SAP. So I just learned about SAP Ariba specifically, which is more of a procurement side of the SAP. So that was one of the, I would say, like, even if you want to learn about just one topic, that is available on the platforms. So I won't suggest any of the specific courses to go through, but definitely you can search, go through that. You can refer to the syllabus, and you can make sure that whether we need those courses, whether do I need to learn these techniques, or I can get the just the points of those.
okay. So now my other question would be like if someone wants to go into a procurement, then
Hmm.
which tools they should know? Because like for example, SAP they have different versions for different, like if you're in procurement or you're in planner, they have
Hmm.
different, right? And same with other, like you are using Coupa. So like what
Yeah.
all tools they should learn if they want to go into a procurement side?
So that we are talking about procurement and not just the purchasing.
Yeah.
I would say like we need definitely the main thing is communication. As being on a procurement side, you will communicate with the vendors. You will ask for the quotations, RFQs, RFPs. So you need the communication on the good side of yours. That's one of the things. The other is the advanced Excel, the Power BI. This comes with along with that. The main things which you can focus is the ERP systems. Basically, I won't say just one. Those will be something like you will be using most of the time. When it comes to procurement, I would distribute it like so 50% of Excel, 40% of ERP system, and then the 10% of Power BI, because you will be the consumer of the Power BI dashboards or the visualizations which you will be getting through the Power BI for understanding what's the inventory level and when to order and how much to order. So
Correct.
if you once you get that from the 10% of understanding of Power BI, you can use the Excel and the other ERP systems, which is rest 90% in that case.
Thanks for sharing those. I think, yeah, because people, like, we always talk generally about the whole supply chain, but like
Hmm.
if someone wants to go, we need to know like what exact tools either they want to go in procurement or as a buyer or different
Yeah,
analyst roles. So because there are different tools, as
totally.
you said, like you use
Hmm.
SAP Ariba, we are using
Hmm.
SAP ECC and SAP S4 HANA. So
Hmm.
I think they are different for different. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So my next question is like, what types of interview questions were you asked when you interviewed for like Boston Metal or other companies?
So when I was interviewing with Boston Metal, I was majorly asked the behavioral questions. Definitely with the HR, you can expect the behavioral questions or the
Correct.
questions related to the job role and your resume. The one question which I remember and I was asked in almost every interview was like, tell me about a situation where you were in conflict with your team member or colleague and how did you handle it and how did you came out of that situation. So this is the question which everyone can expect during their interview process, and this is the one question which should be on your top of the list of the
Yeah.
behavioral questions. I discussed this with many of my friends and the other peers. They said that this is the common question which is asked. They were asked during every interviews, and I
Okay.
remember I was also asked during almost all of my interviews with the HRs. And the behavioral questions, just like in this situation, what would be your steps and those things. So one more specific question which comes up to my head is like, what was a challenging situation and how did you came out of that? Like, what were the steps? What were the actions you took during that challenging situation? Over here, I would like to mention is that the interviewer is trying to understand your mentality, how you are tackling with those situations, how you are working through that situations, whether you are getting panicked and trying to handle a lot of things at the same time, or you are staying calm and like handling each problem at a time and getting the bigger impact through the smaller impacts.
Understood.
So this is something which interviewers trying to understand from those answers. Being on a technical side, I would say the questions which were asked, like if there is a startup environment and you want to optimize the processes, so how would you pitch it to your team and what would be the points you would consider? Definitely for each and every process, the points of consideration would be different, but the way you put it up, that's one of the most
Yeah.
critical thing which is judged during the interview. And the basic things which were asked, like about the Power BI, about the ERP systems, about the NetSuite Oracle, like whether you know how to handle it, do you have an experience with that? The main thing which I had experience with while working with Godrej and Voice was the transitioning from Barn as an ERP
Okay.
system to the Infor. So during my Boston Metal interview, that was the thing where I came across multiple questions like how was that transition? What was your role in that transition? How did you identify like what are the steps or what are the requirements of a supply chain team from that ERP system? So these types of questions are something which you can look forward to.
So, like, how many rounds of interview took place, like, for your current role at Boston Metal? Like, what were the different rounds, and how
Mhm.
much time does it take to get through all of those?
Okay, so while interviewing with Boston Metal, as it was a co-op position, I went
Yeah.
through two rounds. So the first round was with HR, which was a phone call interview where majorly the behavioral questions and questions related to my prior experience were asked. And the second was with the hiring manager, where more of a technical discussions were more of what the team handles and how would you fit in with these things. And these are the challenges which team is facing right now and how your presence would help us in overcoming those challenges.
Okay.
So these were two different interview rounds which I went through.
And how much time did it take from your initial call to your final round?
Over here, I had a leverage point that I already had one offer in my hand. So putting that to or letting that thing known to my HR, she did a great job. I would appreciate that. And like she was able to fasten the process. And the starting call to ending call was like getting an offer was the 1 week period of time, considering there was a one federal holiday in that week too. Yeah, that
So
was
within
pretty
four
fast
days,
for me.
so within 4 days, you were able to go from your initial call to your offer letter in your hand.
Yeah, yeah,
It's nice
that
to
was
get
really like
yeah, to use leverage from your offer if you have.
yeah,
Yeah.
but the prior offer which I got, that was the lengthiest process. I must say, it took
Okay.
around like 4 months to get me the offer.
Yeah.
So getting
Which
four
company
months,
was it?
it was Bendix vehicle
Okay.
commercial
Okay.
vehicles. Yeah,
So thanks for sharing again.
yeah.
So my next question would be around like based on your hiring experience, how can candidates effectively showcase their skills during interviews for supply chain roles?
Okay. For supply chain roles to showcase your int skills, definitely your textbook skills, your classroom skills, and knowledge matters. But what have you done during your prior experience? Understanding that, like your prior experience and linking it to your current job requirements, that's the major thing. That's where the game plays. And like during your interview, if you are able to connect those points with your from the prior experience with your current requirement, those are the things where like you can highlight your skills rather than telling like, okay, I also have the knowledge about Power BI, Excel, ERP system, lean techniques. Rather than listing down your skills, telling it like that, okay, I have also an experience of building the inventory planning dashboard using the Power BI and using the advanced Excel. And along with that, I have also worked with the warehouse teams to enhance the workflow or the material flow using the lean techniques, also optimizing the space using the Kanban techniques. So these are types of skills which you can highlight during the interview rather than just listing down the your skills and the softwares which you are proficient with.
Yeah, definitely. I believe, yeah. So using those star format to answer those instead of just telling
Yeah.
those skills definitely helps. So,
Hmm.
for example, if you're mentoring a student who is interested in supply chain, so what's
Hmm.
the first project you will recommend him or her that they should work to
Okay.
gain real world experience?
Okay. So considering like they want to get into the supply chain industry, I would suggest whenever you get a chance, if you are having an internship or you are still working with the organization, focus on getting an experience with the warehouse management systems, where you can I'm saying warehouse management because like in this case you get an experience with establishing the processes for the material flow. You get an experience with introducing the lean techniques to increase the efficiency, enhance the processes, like the 6S techniques for like making the workplace better. And you also get a knowledge about like how the consumption is going on, what are the consumption rates, and how the material is incoming. So inbound and outbound of the material, you get to understand those things. Definitely the tools I would say are again the ERP
Yeah.
systems and the Excels. In this case, you would be purely consumer of the Power BI dashboards and not the generator of those. So Power BI, you can keep it on side, but the Excel and ERP system, you will be proficient with those things while working on this projects with the warehouse team. And you'll also get to know about like if the return to vendor processes, like definitely the incoming material is totally fine, but after the inspection through the quality team, and if it's get rejected, how it's communicated to the procurement team or the supply chain team, and how it's routed to the vendors. Again, the dispatch format, like selecting the third party logistics if there is a full truckload, or like just doing the delivery partners or like the UPS or any other delivery partners. So that processes you get to know about more about those processes. So definitely, if you are getting into the supply chain thing, get to know more about the warehouse processes, lean techniques, and then the softwares used for that.
So like during your time at Northeastern, like did you did any projects? Then how you get those datas or like how you choose the topic?
Okay, so while having a time at Northeastern University, I did multiple projects for like different courseworks.
Yeah.
So the first project which I did was for Lean Concepts and Applications under Professor McManus. So over here, I it was basically a presentation or and like how using the Lean techniques enhanced us. So I remember the situation or the problem or the challenge which we faced at the warehouse while working at Godrej and Boys. So I remember the problem, and when I was studying the concepts, the lean concepts and lean technologies under his lectures during his coursework, I always related to that problem. So
Okay.
when it came to the project, I took that as a problem and I showcased that like how using the lean techniques would help that for like again, it was a warehouse project where we had different small components coming in and it was mixed up, and every time we had to do the inventory count, we used to like invest more time basically.
Right.
So instead of that, the kitting lean
Yeah.
technology was lean concept was used over there, how that would help us. And then again, having the batches coming in and like depending on the consumptions, so that workflow and the having the root causes for those things, like what was the root
Yeah.
cause of that. So identifying those things. This was the project which I did. And the other project which I remember was during the supply chain analytics. So the project problem was given during that coursework, and then we had to work on that. So yeah, it was a really great experience of having the projects during the coursework.
So were those projects helpful for you when you were interviewing, or it was more like an extra a curricular activity
Um,
that you do?
No, no, no. So definitely any projects like even if those are on the work during the work period, working period with the organization, or it's through the academics, those are
Yeah.
definitely helpful during your interview process, and also whenever you are working through the going through the real world challenges while working with the
Correct.
organizations. So in this case, even if there's something which is needed in the job role, current job role, and you don't have it in the your prior experience, but you have it in the project, that's the plus point basically. So then the
Yeah.
interviewer gets to know that he hasn't just got this experience through the working with the corporate sectors, also through the academics. So yeah, that plays a good point over there.
So basically, what I heard was that you should focus on using those skills that you haven't used in a past experience, and use those skills to make your project, so that it can you
Yeah,
like it can get everything on you can get everything on a resume. So you have your experience, you have
yeah.
certain skills, the skills you didn't use over there. Now you can use them on projects and have it a like whole complete resume, right?
Yeah, totally. As I said, like if you're
Yeah.
lacking for any of this skill through your prior experience, you can showcase that through your project, academic projects or the personal projects.
So, like, as you have like so much years of experience, and so what's like one unexpected moment that happened in your career that taught you a very valuable lesson?
Okay, so the unexpected situation I would say is like so while working with one of the organizations, I was handling the specific portfolio, and then one of our team member left the job. So his portfolio was distributed amongst us, and one of his category was transferred to me. And there was a situation like the panic situation, a chaotic situation due to the increase, sudden increase in the requirement for those parts. So I had to go through like the all the documents which he has documented in the prior during his working period, and get in touch with all the vendors and get the cost finalizations. And along that side, that wasn't just the category which I was handling. So I had my own portfolio too. So that was a pretty like challenging situation for me to take over someone other's category and get into it and get the best out of it. So I was able to handle that situation just because like I was able to communicate with the other team members and also the other sister teams which were working with the similar type of parts, where they helped me with the costings, like how the costings differ, the raw material prices and those things, like the processing time, the lead times, and the potential vendors for that part. So I was able to handle that situation. So the learning from this was like we need to have the knowledge about what all categories our team handles at the higher level, not just having the knowledge or not just having in touch, getting in touch with the portfolio which you are handling. You should always have that communication with your team members, like what's going in your category,
Yeah.
who are the vendors, who are the difficult vendors to handle. So those types of communication will definitely, not every time you get in the same situation, but definitely it will increase your knowledge. So after that, I made sure that I have those types of communications every time with my all the team members.
So, like, what's one thing about supply chain management that most people generally misunderstood?
The thing which most people misunderstand about the supply chain management is they think that the supply chain management is purely operational, but it's highly strategical. Like decisions like vendor selection or demand forecasting significantly influence the company's bottom line and customer satisfaction. So making those decisions strategically, thinking about the overall aspects affecting those things is the most important thing in the supply chain. It's not just the operational, like getting the raw material, getting it processed by the third party, and getting it assembled at our facilities and getting it out in the market. So that's not just the operational part. That's one of the part of supply chain, but it's highly strategical decision making.
What would you say is the most underrated skill in supply chain?
Most underrated skill. Okay. The most underrated skill I would say is the communication in supply chain. Most of the people think that like having the knowledge about all the tools used, having the expertise about all the tools, and making the numerical decisions is the only thing in the supply chain. But communicating those numerical decisions, convincing it to your team as well as to the vendors, like about your negotiations and those things, are also a major things or the major skill which you need in the supply chain field, I would say. Because like the cost saving is the ultimate goal of the supply chain team, because it definitely affects on a broader scale or to the business.
And then, what's your favorite part of working in supply chain? Then, why
Okay.
you like supply chain? Why you are working in supply chain?
The favorite part would be like getting an opportunity to be a part of the complex situations, using your skills, your experiences, your knowledge in those types of situations, and seeing the valuable results coming out of it. So if there is a problem in the process which is hampering into the organization, being an experienced asset to the team, using your skill set and getting the results and getting noticed by your seniors, your VPs, your higher level authorities, that's the best thing. So I got that experience during my co-op and as well as when I'm working part-time. So yeah, that's one of the thing which I love about the supply chain, that you get directly involved with the complex situations.
Yeah, and I think it's more on a day-to-day basis that you find new challenges every day that can't be solved by AI. Human brain has
Yeah.
to be used to solve those.
Yeah, definitely. I would say that like supply chain can't be fully replaced by the AI. So
Yeah.
I'm in a good industry right now. So
Yeah,
yeah.
like to some extent, AI can be helpful for us to help in making those decisions, but it can't make decision for us, right?
Totally, totally agree to that.
So, like as we are coming to near to the end of this podcast, like I will
Hmm.
ask a couple of questions, which is like, what's one takeaway or piece of advice you want students or early career professionals to remember from this
Hmm.
conversation?
So, to the upcoming students or the students who are trying to get into this industry, this supply chain industry, I would say stay curious and adaptable. Supply chains are dynamic and embracing lifelong learning. So that is the key to staying relevant and excelling in this field. So stay curious, stay adaptable, and have that feeling in yourself of like learning new things and being curious about like what is in that technology, like getting in deep diving into those types of problems and what are the technologies used to resolve those problems. Yeah.
So one thing that I think I forgot to ask was related to your resume. So I will just jump on that for a quick
Yeah.
minute. Is that like how you prepared your resume?
Okay, so while preparing my resume, again, the main thing is for every, I wouldn't say for every job role you have to alter, but majorly wherever you see like that's one of the keywords which are like sounding different in my resume, but I have that type of experience. Change it, make it aligning with the job role, and then apply for those positions. That's something really helpful, and that worked for me as well. And quantify your results, I would say, for every bullet point. Like I did this things, like I was able to build a Power BI dashboard using the Power BI skills, Excel skills, and not just ending that bullet over there itself, quantifying those. Like this helped the organization to enhance their efficiency by 30% by reducing the
Yeah.
last moment. If we go for the inventory, reducing the last moment orders by 40% or something. So quantify your results. That's something which will make you stand out from the whole crowd.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's I think that's what I say to people when they are reach out, like how should I write a bullet point, is like you should have three things in each bullet point: what you have
Hmm.
done, how you have done, and what was the impact.
One was the
If you
impact.
have these three things in your bullet point, then it's a very good bullet point. If you
Yeah.
can't write all these three, so for example, for a job like you have done, you have written eight bullet points. So for like,
Hmm.
if it might be possible that you can't write all these three for all eight of them, at least write for four or five of them, and for the rest of them,
Exactly.
at least write two of them, so that it's a good bullet point over there.
Yeah, totally. So, like, we can't expect the quantifying the vendor
Yeah.
relationship management projects.
Yeah.
So totally fine with that. But wherever as it's possible, quantify those
Quantify
results.
those things. Yeah. So like, did
Mhm.
you used to change your resume for each job you apply to, or like it was two or three resumes you made, or a single resume that you made?
Definitely not the single resume which I used to apply all the jobs. I used to alter my resume based on the job role or the job description. But also I had done the mass applications for a time. So during that time, I had my master resume which included major of all the common requirements for the jobs in my resume. So I used that resume for mass applications. But definitely when it came to specific job applications where I feel like I fit in a good fit for that role, I altered that resume.
Yeah.
I used the new resume for every application of those types.
So like, how many jobs did you apply for to get a co-op?
A lot many. I would say a lot many because I haven't kept the number. Like the mass application number doesn't
Like
comes anywhere.
like over
Uh
1,000, 2,000, five
no, no,
hundred.
not definitely not 1,000. Somewhere
Oh,
around like 700 to 800. Yeah, definitely
that's
not over
that's a very
1,000.
good number for a co-op, because I think co-ops are also not that much available when you search
Yeah.
in respect to full
Hmm.
time. So
Yeah, definitely. And I would say like definitely 700 to 800 applications, but I was able to have like get the interviews of around seven different companies, seven different positions.
so like, for example, every 100 jobs you applied, you were getting one interview
And
from them.
one
That we can
interview
say.
call. Yeah, definitely.
That's a very good number, I believe, because I heard people
Mm-hmm.
saying that like it's like for a couple of them it's like 200 or 300, and then they get a interview call. So
Uh-huh.
definitely, it's a
No,
good
no, no.
number.
Yeah.
So like,
So
how was
that
your
was one.
overall job search strategy? Like, how much months before you started when your co-op search? How you went through all that? Like, what was your whole process?
So, as I came from the fall intake, I was eligible for the co-op search from January 2023. So after getting the access of new works, I started my application. But before that, I was prepared with my resume. On the other side, preparing for the interview questions. Definitely, I won't expect like getting the first interview and cracking that interview would work for everyone. But getting that experience and getting through multiple interviews, trying to figure out where you failed or where was the mistake, and working on that mistake and getting into another process. That's the best thing you can do. So again, as I said, the techniques which I used were like the altering the resumes for specific job roles, which I believe that I can be a good fit for. Networking with your peers, your friends definitely helps, and also networking on the LinkedIn. LinkedIn has its own game in searching the job. So putting the emails, writing the notes when you are sending the connection request, just not just sending the connection request, it won't get accepted. Write about yourself, like why do you want to connect with that person? That makes a major difference. So writing those notes, adding, sending the emails to the recruiters, and just trusting the process. I would say that become it's a hectic process. I know, I can understand. I have been through that. I have been in a co-op search for like from Jan to November. So it's a 11 months period of time in searching for one co-op. So it becomes hectic after a time, but just take your time out, have a day rest, and then get back again into that process.
Thanks for sharing all those amazing experiences. I
Yeah.
believe it will help many people out there. So, but last,
Yeah.
just last one thing is
hmm
like, where can people can follow you to address their queries or to help?
Yeah, definitely. Incoming students or the professionals who are working in this field can connect me over LinkedIn. I'm very much active over LinkedIn. Like I try to reply back to every message I get. And they can also have my email ID, which is my first name dot L, my last name Kotawade @gmail.com. And definitely, I would say rather than email, reaching out on the LinkedIn would be the
LinkedIn.
better option. Yeah,
Best way, yeah.
yeah, the best
Yeah,
way.
thanks for sharing. So,
Yeah, totally.
yeah, bye bye.
Yeah. Take care, Sam.